Hi, everybody. It's Craig. I am super excited to be here with Cutting the Crap with Shap and my old friend Jillian, who is a repurposed educator. She is going to be sharing an amazing story. She is somebody who is humble, kind, generous. It's going to make you laugh, but I think most importantly, she's going to leave you feeling so upbeat and positive about who you are and how to make change in your life. Knowing a little bit about her story, just listening to it, I feel that her message is going to resonate with all of you, no matter what you do, no matter how old you are. It's a really, really positive message. Hi, Jillian.
Be here.
Great to have you here. Hey, let's do this. Tell us something about you that makes you special.
Ooh, right off the bat. What a great question. Okay, something that makes me special. I have an uncanny ability to make elderly people feel loved. How's that?
So, how does that look?
So, a little bit of a backstory on that. About 3 months ago, my mother in law went into a nursing home as she broke her hip, and she's 93. We knew she wasn't going to be coming back home to her home, which was, a little bit of a, transition for her. But in this long-term facility, we were able to put her, and she's very safe and taken care of. So my husband and I would kind of tag team. We'd go like every day and just kind of say hi, pop in, make sure she was being taken care of. It was hard for us too. It was a big transition for us. So I got to where I was like, okay, oh great, it's my day to go to the nursing home. I've got this and this going on. I don't have time. It's an inconvenience. It really is an imposition on my day. Even though, granted, it was 5 minutes away, it still is 5 minutes away. So anyway, there was just one day, and I can't even remember the day, the time, who it was, but I left one day from that nursing home visit blessed. Like my heart was just completely filled. And I don't know whether it was just a smile from one of the residents or somebody that worked there said something kind, but it's almost like the switch flipped for me. So I started going back and I started enjoying it and I started loving it. And I started just participating and getting to know the other residents. We'd kind of meet up in the dining hall when it was time for lunch. And whether it was a pat on their shoulder or, holding their hand for a moment or just looking into their eyes, asking them for their story, calling them by name. I just realized that so many of them were lonely. They were kind of left and didn't have people to come visit them and smile at them. And like, as a matter of fact, today is National Root Beer Day, and they're having root beer floats and live entertainment in the courtyard. And I am going to get my dance on today. So, and it's, things like that. I'll move around and, dance with them and have fun. But it's just like leaving them with a joy, leaving them with somebody who cares, somebody who loves them. I don't know them, but I'll leave them with a kiss on the top of the head and say, hey, I love you. Have a great day. Some of them are nonverbal. They don't respond. That's okay. It's a lot like children, right? We're in the classroom as educators. That's what our kids want. They just want to feel known, loved and known. So like my children, I feel like they're all kind of my like grandparents now, but leaving them every day with them feeling known and loved.
I
So
love that. That's such a great story. I mean, I'm not surprised knowing you that you that you did that. But I think one of the messages that I take away from that is you took a chance.
mm,
Like it would have been easier to not do that. To say, I don't need to do that, and it's not a big deal. But once you did, and you also did something that I talk about all the time as a wellness educator. I talk about habits. The number of times that I mention habits to people is if you're trying to change something in your life, you have to create a habit. And sometimes it can be very daunting to do that because it's not always easy. And sometimes it's not always fun. Sometimes it can be challenging. But you mentioned that you go every day. So it's crazy to think like you started at that one thing where you weren't even sure you were going to do it. And now it's something where you're changing people's lives every day, which I think is you get a huge kudos for that, and I think it's just a really powerful message,
It's just,
at
it's
least
one
from
of
what I
those,
see.
and it's one of those places
Does
where,
that make sense?
yeah, yeah. And sometimes we think about, you know, we feel like, oh, it's awkward or it's uncomfortable. I don't know what to say. I don't know them. But honestly, it is just like one of those places where you can totally be yourself because none of them are judging you. Not one. When I
That
go and
that is
my
so true. There is
answer
no
is
doubt about that. They're definitely not judging you. I'm not gonna.
no.
I mean, I'm not gonna say anything else to that, but that's definitely true. At least it would seem like that. And I think about when my parents were older, that was kind of them. You know. So kudos to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I mean that because for people that don't know, I've known Jillian for a while. We kind of connected on X, freaking Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And
Too.
I got to see Jillian like as a really positive, upbeat, inspiring person, incredibly creative. And then you kind of disappeared for a while, kind of hopped off. And I honestly was like, I was curious, like, what happened? This is somebody who was on there all the time, making a lot of connections, and you kind of disappeared. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think we all connected over the time of COVID. And
Yep.
that was kind of when we all kind of really started like leaning in on our educator communities on all social media platforms. And it was awesome. I mean, I had not ever met such a passionate group. And I mean, you were included in that. You were one of the first
Thank you.
ones. I remember, what was it, those book chats that we used to do with Meredith? I
Yep.
can't even remember. And
Yep.
those, it was just like, okay, we're reading a book together about education, and we're talking about it. And it just like changed the trajectory of what I perceived social media to be. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. But I mean, with anything, you do what you can, but then it becomes overwhelming or maybe a little bit negative, or you see things that you don't like, and there are people that are judging or critical, and it was just, for me, it kind of lost that appeal. I lost that sense of, this is not fun anymore. This is now,
Yeah.
I'm looking every day to see the negative things that people are saying, not the positive things. And it was such a habit. It was a good habit for a while. But I just needed to take a step back, and I needed to refocus and refresh and kind of say, you know what, this is not something I want in my life right now. It's not something I need for myself mentally, and emotionally. It was a very difficult time for me. I just am a pretty sensitive person, so I don't let things roll out off my back very easy. I'm learning to do that. Especially with being around the elderly people, because they say whatever they want to say, and you just say, oh, okay. They curse at you and like get me my mud and coffee. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll be right there. And so it's one of those, they're not be doing it to be, they're not personally attacking me. That's just their character. And that's what I realized was, and it's funny, like this was 3 months ago with the whole nursing home thing and elderly thing. And that's about the time I started to transition back into the social media platforms. And I think part of that probably went hand in hand together, because I was realizing, it's not personal what people are saying or what I'm reading. It's just, it was an addiction for me. It was just how many, people I was following, or how many, likes I was getting on things. And it was just like, that's not me. It's not who I want to be. So I cut that crap, Shap,
Nice.
and let that go. And when I was ready, and I took care of myself, my emotional health is very important to me. My faith is very important to me. My family is very important to me. And when, my mental health was kind of not at the best, it was causing all of those things. It was causing that ripple reaction, right? Where everything around me kind of like isn't right. So, with my marriage, or my, the way I was parenting, or, treating some of my friends, it was like, this is not who I want to be. So I stopped it. So taking a risk like that, I mean, when you stop something cold turkey, when you stop social media, it was a little bit of, yikes, I've lost 10,000 friends, right? And especially people I was very, very close to. So I just disappeared for a while. But when it was time, I knew that, those people that I had known and loved for so long would still be there, and I'd reconnect. And that's, what I'm doing now. So it's a lovely thing. It's honestly just feels like home. It feels like I've got my joy back. I've got these friends back that I love spending time with, and hearing talk about all the positive and uplifting things. And it's great.
I love that story. I will say one thing, and this is really critical. So I want you to think about this because you said something. I'm going to push back for a sec, okay? So you said something, and I know once I say it, you're going to take a pause and say, "Oh yeah." So you said you had like 10,000 friends, 10,000 friends, right? We didn't really have 10,000 friends.
No,
You had some friends.
I had a few friends, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we think that the number of people that follow us or like things, or, thumbs down, thumbs up, is personal. It's not. Like, half the people that probably followed me, like, I didn't know who they were. They were probably bots, It's like, so, when I created a new account and jumped back in, because I had deleted my old account, just completely wiped it out. And when I came back and started, reconnecting and adding those friends that I had once previously been, connected with, now it's like, it feels, like I said, like home. It's that smaller group, and I, feel more comfortable, and I feel more healthy, and it doesn't have that same feel or flavor to it. So, yeah. So you're right. Yeah. They were not friends. They were followers.
And you know what? That's kind of like, I mean, as an educator, I've been teaching for 36 years. I often talk to students about like, like life hacks,
Yeah.
Like one of the life hacks is not giving a crap about what other people think of you. That is so, and I can tell you, Jillian, I mean, you know me, but I can tell you that I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't. Like, anybody who knows me, even my daughter, who's 23, will make fun of me because she'll be like, "Dad, you don't give a crap about what anybody thinks of you." And I'm like, I don't. If I'm worrying about what other people think of me, then I'm going down the wrong path. Now, I will clarify, if I'm treating you with respect and kindness and dignity, and you, on the other hand, are not reciprocating, I'm going to drop you.
Yeah.
So I think that's a critical message for people, is that you got to really understand, and this goes back to so many things about wellness, is I look at it from a standpoint, as long as like you and I are friends,
Yeah.
we're friends. And the reason we're friends is because our value system aligns.
Yeah.
It aligns with each other. And even if we disagree, it's done with mutual respect.
Yeah.
And that's a critical thing that people need to realize. And it's not even just about social media. I mean, that's a part of it, obviously, but it's just life in general. If you are around people who do not make you feel good about who you are and are not accepting, I put them on notice.
Yeah.
Literally, I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we went out to dinner for Father's Day. Okay? And one of my huge pet peeves is if I am holding a door and somebody does not say thank you. It's
I
a,
hear
it's
you.
it's a huge pet peeve. So we went to this new restaurant yesterday. It was myself, my wife, my daughter, my father-in-law, and my daughter was holding the door, and people were coming out of the restaurant. And I'm looking at these people, and they were kind of oblivious that she was holding the door, and they were just standing there. And I had to take a breath because I didn't want to embarrass my daughter. Now I can tell you, if it would have been just me, I would have 100% said something. And then I held the door. So I grabbed the door from my daughter and I was holding it. And these people were coming in, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, you literally just walked through the door and didn't even acknowledge that I was holding it. And we sat down, and I didn't say anything because I didn't want to embarrass my daughter. But if I would have been there alone, I would have 100% said something like, hey, how about a thank you? And I think that goes back to this idea of how do we treat each other?
Yeah.
Like when people were talking about you or saying things about you on social media, they don't even know you. They don't
Yeah.
know, they don't know what you're about, but they're making that judgment. And I'm so glad that you kind of stepped away and kind of took stock of yourself, and
I,
I think,
it's that was hard though,
of course,
that was like, and part of it, Craig, is like when you step away from something, like I'm what you call a jumper. I don't I don't sit down and rationalize things. I don't sit down and go, oh, I would have, should have. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I jump. And my husband teases me because he's like, you're such a jumper. I'm like, I am. Because if I don't and I sit back and try and rationalize it, then it's never going to happen because I will somehow find an excuse not to do what my first gut instinct was telling me to do. So when I, deleted my account, it hurt my heart because there were people that I knew that were going to be like, phew, well, great. Where'd she go? Or, kind of like you said, you're like, I didn't know where you went. You just, ghosted everybody. And I
yep,
mean, you did that, but I did. But, I mean, and it's like, yeah, I did. And, and that's what, that hurt and it was hard, but I knew that if I had waited, I wouldn't have done it. So jumping and, being unafraid to say what you feel or, I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
I love that, Jillian. And I know you said before, you kind of talked about like not being ashamed of yourself and not being ashamed for what you've done. You want to like talk about that for a sec?
I just think so much of our culture, like we are so used to shame and we're used to blame and we're used to taking that personally, and I think, and maybe it's an over 50 thing, I don't know, but I mean, or seasoned, adulthood, I don't know what it is, but there's just something in me that is so unapologetic. And I just want to like shout that I spent way too much time apologizing or being, feeling shame for things that I did or I said. And I look back now and I'm like, none of that even mattered. Like I spent so much time worrying about consequences of things that never happened. Um, so I'm just like, poof, unashamedly me. I mean, why not? I don't care. Like I don't care what people think. I don't care if you don't like my blue sequin jacket. I,
I love it.
that's just me. It's like I I'm going to throw it out there and I'm going to be real and I'm going to be authentic and I'm not going to hold back anymore. And if somebody doesn't like it and says something ugly, then great. Then it's not for you. So move on. Like you've obviously got a problem with it if you're saying something, but that's not for me to fix. That's for you to fix. So
Oh, I love that. I love that because I will say oftentimes to people, that's a you problem.
yeah.
Like if I am treating you with respect and kindness and dignity, and you are being disrespectful, that is not a Craig problem. That's a you problem. And I'm not going to tolerate a you problem. And I think that's something, but again, we're like I am very much of a rational guy. I am very a black and white person. Now, I will say that I'm not going to say that I'm not a jumper. I'm not going to say that. I would say that I am a jumper, but I'm also a jumper who's cautious. Like like obviously for me, like I think about it, I've written a book, doing a podcast, jumped out of a plane, competitive power lifter. I do a lot of different things, but I'm also unapologetic in how I do them. Like I always say that I'm going to do the best I can to make the world a better place. If you don't like it, that's on you.
Yes.
Like if somebody's watching our time together, right, and they love it, awesome. Awesome. I hope that you do. If you don't, then you don't. And that is okay. That's okay, because here's what it comes down to. Jillian and I, we are just trying to make a positive difference in people's lives. That's it. Simple. Trying to make a positive difference. And people can either embrace it and say, oh my God, listen to Craig and Jillian, they're really, or they can say, either way, it's okay. Either way, that's kind of life in general. And for everybody listening, like one of the things that Jillian mentioned, I think is critical is, and I do believe you're spot on here, Jillian. I do believe wisdom does come with age and experience. It really does. I don't know if it's necessarily a number, but I do think it does come with that. And one of the things that I've learned, especially being a long-time teacher and a wellness person, is as long as we are doing our best to make the world a better place, then we never have to be ashamed of that. Ever.
Yeah.
It's when we're not doing that when we need to do some serious reflection of things. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's like, I mean, I think it's a heart issue, right?
Yep.
It's where is your heart? If your heart is in it for the right reason, then you're going to go out there and do the best you darn can. If your heart is doing it for the wrong purposes, then it's not going to work. And people see right through it. So, people can see, and maybe that's a life experience thing. Maybe not so much number, like you said, it's the life experiences that we've had. We've all been through, births and deaths and illnesses and tragedies. And, we've all been through so much. We could share tons of stories. Those experiences, right? They change who we are. But it's a heart thing. It's how are we going to perceive those changes and how are we going to make ourselves better because of them? And it's all about, too, I think, setting boundaries, setting those boundaries for ourselves, not letting somebody get to us that, great, I'm going to keep a wall up with that person and I'm not going to let them bother me as much as I want to. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep setting those boundaries and put up those walls with who I need to keep out and let those people in that I need to keep in. So, and that's simple. It sounds simple. It really is simple if you when you come down to it.
It's simple but hard.
Yeah.
It is simple, especially, and again, the people that really know me is I am not an emotional guy. I'm just not. It's just not. I mean, and when I say that, I don't mean I don't care. I'm not one to get emotional over things that, like, I'll give you a quick example. Like, I think about a person that I've worked with who we just don't see eye to eye, right? We don't get along, and we've had conversations, honest conversations. At the end of the day, though, like I'm not going to let that person get to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do it. Like, why would I do that? Why would I allow another person to get to me and make me feel like crap? It doesn't make any sense. Because then you touched on this. When you were having this stuff where people, you kind of felt attacked, or on the social media piece, it affected other parts of your life.
Yeah.
Which you allowed to happen. Like, you allowed that. And people do that all of the time. All of the time. And I can tell you, I don't let anybody do that to me. I don't let anybody do that. As long as I'm doing the right thing or trying to, or my heart's in the right place. You said this was so powerful, Jillian. You talked about it's all in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine you doing anything intentionally to hurt somebody. True?
That's very true.
So think about that. Just us talking, I know in my heart you would never do something to intentionally with keywords intentional,
Right.
intentionally hurt somebody. So if you're not doing something to intentionally hurt somebody, if they feel hurt, okay, we still need to acknowledge it, I mean, we don't want to ignore it, but we also need to be aware that you weren't trying to do something wrong. Like these people that were, let's say, attacking you or bashing you or saying something mean about you, they didn't even know you. And then you are allowing them, people that are not your friends, they're not your friends, because if they were your friends, they wouldn't be doing it. You're allowing them to impact you. And what you've done is you've learned, you stepped away and realized you're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Which,
So, Craig, this is like, and for everybody that's listening and watching, like, this is exactly why we are friends. You are not super emotional. I am uber emotional. I Now listen, I wanted to cry with what you just said because what you just said spoke volumes to me because you are speaking truth into my life. You're not somebody going, "Oh yeah, I bet that was really hard when somebody like said something critical about you." Oh, no, no. You're going, no, that was you. That was your choice. You chose to feel that way because of somebody you didn't know. And that's right. And that's why it's so important for us to keep communicating as humans, right? I need people like you in my life to speak that truth. Like I know you're not a super emotional person. I mean, you're down to the point. You don't mince words. It's like
nope.
do. And when you share your little videos, whether they're your little daily drives or, quick little things, it's always just so positive. Here it is, y'all. I'm laying it down and this is truth and this is me. And I feel like I just was in a therapy session. Like this is something I needed to hear.
But what? Okay. I mean, okay. I guess that's good.
See, I'm just saying what I feel right now.
But you
But no,
know what?
seriously, I think that's why, so many of our hearts and lives are connected in our little communities on social media because we have that heart and we have, yes, our personalities are going to be polar opposite, but we're still going to understand that at the deep heart, at the deep root of things, it's all about our stories, our experiences, and our character and who we
Oh,
are, how we relate to each other. So thank you. Thank you for that. Holy cow.
but you know what? It's interesting. Like, so my bluntness, you know how blunt I am. Some people don't like it. Like, some people don't like it, and sometimes it's tough because I'm not a sugarcoater.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons generally students really like me is like if you're late, I'll say this to kids, and so anybody who's an educator, hopefully you'll pick up on this. If a kid's late to my class and they say, "Hey, Shap, I'm sorry," my comment will be, "Okay, I got you. It's okay, no worries." The kid's late again. Sorry, Shap. I'm like, stop. You told me you were sorry the other day, and now you're sorry again, or you're sorry or not sorry. Which is it? Because if you were sorry, you'd stop doing it. See, so you're not sorry. So tell me what it is. Well, I am sorry. I said, okay, so now you're sorry twice. And how many sorries are you going to do? How many sorries do I have to deal with? And that will catch kids off guard. They'll be like, and they'll be like, I am sorry, Shep. And I'm like, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I like it. I appreciate that. I understand you're sorry. That's great. Thank you for apologizing. Don't do it again.
Yep.
And that bluntness can be tough. It can be tough because people aren't used to it. Um, and sometimes I'll have to step back and say, catch myself. I'll be like, I didn't mean to be so blunt. Apologize. But on the other side of it is like talking to you. I was going to be blunt just simply because I'm hearing your story. And if I say to you, well, it's okay. No, no, it's not okay. It's not. It's not okay for you to allow other people to poop on you.
Yep.
right? That's not okay. And if I say to you, "Oh, it's all right," I'm enabling that behavior.
Yeah.
Which, first
Which,
of all,
yeah.
that's not how I am as a person. And why would I do that to a friend?
Yeah.
Why would I do that to somebody that I care about? Why would I say it's okay to allow somebody to do that? It's not okay. And you've stopped it,
Yep.
which is good.
After a lifetime of, I mean, you're from the North, right?
Yep.
I'm from the deep South.
Yep.
So it was all, bless your heart, oh, well, just come have some sweet iced tea and sit down and tell me all about it. That was how I grew up. So breaking those patterns, and, I still live in the South. I live in, Clearwater, Florida, but breaking those patterns wasn't where you lived. Breaking those patterns was the bias that was ingrained in you, that you always, thought that you were supposed to be compassionate and comforting of every little thing anybody did. And, breaking out of that is so freeing. And I love being more like now, like spot on. And I'm going to tell you how I feel. Yes, I'm still going to have some boundaries. Because that's just my nature of, how I'm going to bring it out. Um, but I've learned it's okay. It's okay.
And I'll touch on one thing before we transition. I want to be clear to everybody. Um, when I say I don't care, that's probably the wrong choice of words. I would say I care. I would say that I care a lot, but I'll also say that it's important to hold ourselves accountable and to hold other people accountable. And if we don't do that, then we are enabling ourselves to feel bad, and we're also allowing others to keep doing it,
Yeah.
which I think is just that's societal. That's not a Jillian or Craig thing. That's a societal thing.
Yeah.
Like if somebody is doing something that they shouldn't do, we have every right to say something to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's great conversation. We could be going forever here. Um, why don't you I know you kind of had a career change, right? Like different challenges. Why don't you talk about them?
Yeah, I did. I stepped away from the traditional classroom about 3 years ago. I taught elementary school for 21 years and loved every moment of it. And, just kind of got to that point in my life where I just needed a little different challenge, and knew that there was something still kind of inside me that I kind of wanted to get out there and do. So left the classroom and went into a different kind of path in education, so to speak. So I actually work remotely for a company that we create content for educators to learn ed tech. So they're like little, we call them badges. So little micro credentials that, are little things, anything from, ed tech tools to ed tech strategies and skills. But we're going to put those courses out there, and then they get to choose what they want from the library, and they're going to take that little course. But the really cool thing is they're going to have to implement that. It's not just a check off box.
Oh,
Hey, I did it. Great. Now what? Give me my certificate. So they have to submit evidence that they have used it and engaged with their students or their colleagues or in a lesson plan. And they send that to us. And we have a review team, and I lead that review team, and we get to see each and every piece of submission, each piece of evidence that comes through from those educators and leaders, and they're from all over. And it's just a brilliant thing because we get to see what they're doing with these tools and strategies, but we get to give them feedback. And that's what I love more than anything is they send things to us, but we're turning over to them and going, this is amazing. I love how you did so and so. Tell me more about how your students engaged with this. We would love to hear it. And it makes such a huge difference when you can encourage another educator who's learning something and you've said, this is amazing how you're using it. I mean, that 2 or 3 words goes like a long way with somebody's confidence and helping them feel successful with learning. So, professional learning is something we all have to do. It's not something that we often like to do. So, what we always say is our tagline is put a spark of joy into your PD. And that's really what we've done and what we keep growing and kind of evolving. And, different tools are coming out, with AI and generative things, and it's tough. It's tough to keep up with it, but at the same time, it's exciting because we're helping educators how to, helping them use it in the right way and be positive with it. Because it's amazing how many educators are still afraid of it, or it's something they're not allowed to use in their schools. Or they, feel negatively about it. So it's here, it's not going anywhere. So, we're really helping to facilitate that learning path as well.
I love that. And I know for those of you who don't know Jillian is unbelievably creative and talented. Woo, and artistic. Has an amazing skill set for creativity. I've seen some of the stuff that you've done, and it is definitely, you talked about well, I know for a fact you kind of mentioned that you thought of yourself as your identity as a teacher, right?
Yeah.
How did you change that mindset?
Yeah. It changed when I left the classroom because I actually went through a period of grief when I was like, I'm not a teacher anymore. And everybody's like, oh, once an educator, always an educator. And yeah, that's true. It's absolutely true. I will always be an educator no matter who I'm teaching. Um, but at the same time, there was a grief that I've left a place that I know for 21 years, that I've felt loved. I was self-contained in that space and could make it whatever I wanted it to be. And it was hard. But then I started, I had some more flexibility, being at home and working from home, having some different hours. I thought, maybe I'll dig in a little bit to that creative side that I've always loved, and wanted to pursue. So yeah, so I started doing more artwork. I started doing more illustrating and book writing, and it just continues to be a huge passion. And I am so grateful that I have the time and energy to be able to do those things. And I think that's a big part of the mental health as well, is being able to do those things that you love. Because if you spend so much time finding your identity in your work, or in other people or in other groups, I mean, you've got to find what makes you happy and what makes you joyful. So, and nobody can dictate that to you. You've got to find it for yourself.
Awesome. Love it. It's funny too, when you say that you kind of a teacher when you stepped away. You're still a teacher. You're just teaching adults. And I will piggyback and say, when people ask me what I teach, do you know what I teach?
Was it phys ed?
Right,
History? Yeah, phys ed.
phys
Okay.
ed. But I don't say that I'm a health and physical education teacher. I call myself a wellness educator because that's what I believe. Throughout most of my life, I've always thought about wellness as teaching everybody. When I do on my daily drives and I'll do different things, it's all about giving people ideas on wellness. Our podcast, what's our podcast about? Podcast is about wellness. Maybe not, it's not called wellness, but that's what it is. It's about giving people a different perspective, which I know you can talk about. It's giving people a different perspective on how to make themselves better, but also to make the world better, which is, again, not always easy. There's lots of hurdles. And I have, so this is my 36th year being in education. And I think deeply, like, when I step away, what is that going to be like? Because I've done this for, you know, almost 2/3 of my life. So, but I also am embracing it. When that happens, I'll embrace it and I'll do things that are going to hopefully help other people. I mean, if we can.
You will. You
Yeah.
will.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just don't know what it will look like. I mean, hopefully it'll be this.
Exactly.
Hopefully it'll be this. Hopefully I'll be doing this with other amazing people, and Um, why don't you
And it's
share a couple? Go on. I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry. It just hit me that, you took that title of physical education teacher, right? And you flipped it to be a wellness educator. I wrote that down because I'm like, that is so cool. And it's that perspective. You're talking about the perspective. What is the perspective title? I mean, yes, titles are important, right? But giving yourself that title changes the whole meaning, basically. And that reminded me of, even at the nursing home, they have an activities director, right? That's her title. But I've gotten to know her, and I've gotten to, we talk every day, and she's like, I really don't like the title activities director. And I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. She goes, I'm a life enrichment coordinator. And I'm like, my goodness, Alicia, that's it. That changes perspective. When you hear activities director, it's like, not a big deal. Life enrichment coordinator, that's exactly what you're doing for these people. And what you're doing, Craig, you're a wellness educator. That's what you're doing. So I love the perspective on changing the titles and being okay with that. Like, I think that's why I always said I'm a repurposed educator. I'm not a former educator.
Yeah.
I'm not a retired educator. I'm just repurposed myself, and I'm working in a different area of education. So I think there's a lot to those titles that we give ourselves, and allow ourselves the freedom to do that with, unapologetically again.
And I think the titles, like when I say a wellness educator, like I am a health and physical education teacher. That's my job. That's what I'm getting paid for. But I think about that, to me, is it boxes me in.
Mm-hmm.
It puts me in a box of this, and there are so many things that I will teach students outside the realm of those things. I do, and I'm not bragging about it. It's just facts. Like I had somebody reach out to me about finance, because I talk a lot about finance and wellness, like learning how to manage money. That that's not health and physical education, but it is wellness, and it's how we determine how we're going to do things. Like I choose not to allow myself to be boxed into something,
Mm-hmm.
because I want the flexibility to be able to come outside of that box if necessary. It doesn't mean I have to. And it's the same thing you're doing. Think about it. You spent 20, thinking about what you did. You were on social media, had all these followers. Okay. You got away from it. Okay. 21 years as a teacher, decided to move on and do something else because you refuse to allow yourself to be boxed into something. And that is hard. That is hard to do, because we all, I mean, I'm generally a very confident guy, and I'm not usually one to worry about if something doesn't work, but we all have that in us.
Yeah.
All of us, we all have that. There's always that little bit of fear of like, man, what if this doesn't work? Or, oh, what are people going to think of me? We all have that. Now, some obviously a lot more than others, you know, but I think one of the things you've done that's so great is, even though you are obviously sensitive and emotional, you were able to put your own wellness and your family's wellness above that and make change.
Wow.
So what would you say to people that maybe are in a similar situation than you, that are really kind of struggling? How would you give them advice?
I just think, it was like, I think you said this at the beginning, just learn how to take risks. Um, be afraid of staying safe.
Yeah.
Um, because that's a dangerous place to be. Be afraid of being safe, and don't be afraid of taking a risk. Be a bit of a jumper.
I just wrote that down. I love that. Be afraid of being. I love that.
Yeah.
That you said, be afraid of being safe, right?
Yeah.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
that quote. That's a game changer right there. Because so many of us are.
Yeah.
Like I think that's just, it's hard because we all get comfortable.
Yeah.
We all get comfortable. I mean, it's just kind of like human nature. You get comfortable doing the same thing over and over. And I think a lot of times that can be good, depending on what it is.
Sure. Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
like if you're comfortable doing stuff that makes you miserable, stop
Yeah.
stop being comfortable. You
Yeah.
know, but if doing things like I'm a lover of exercise. It's not a hobby.
Yeah.
It's not a hobby. It's part of my life. That is something I am comfortable doing every day because it makes me feel good and it's good for me. But if I was doing something that I didn't like, and I'm like, well, this is life. It's my job. I have to. Oh my God, stop, please. Like, just stop. Man, like, make a freaking change. Do something, please. Like, ask for help. Seek out assistance. Take a little bit of a risk. Otherwise, you're just going to be freaking miserable. So stop doing it.
And there are people willing to help. Like, you could ask anybody. Had I, turned to some of those people that I were close to, right, on social media, had I turned to you or had I turned to Barbara, it's like I probably could have gotten through it a little quicker than I did, but I felt like I was kind of alone in it and I needed to deal with it on my
Mhm.
own. So I would say that too. I mean, lean in on people that you can trust and people that you know. Um, don't and it's so easy to say, well, yeah, but you did it, Jillian. And I'm like, yeah, but I did. But I'm also, again, a jumper and I wanted, quick results and I wanted it to happen. And my boss said something to me one time during a review. It was just a review like last year, a yearly review. And she said, here's what I want you to really work on, Jillian. I want you to work on being uncomfortable with not knowing what's next. You know, it's okay. You need to be comfortable. You need to go, okay, because I get so freaked out when I don't do something right or I, miss a deadline or, I, misplace something. I'm so quick to want to fix it. And it's like, it's okay. Be uncomfortable in not knowing. Be uncomfortable in not knowing what that next step is. That uncomfortableness is, yeah, it's yucky. It doesn't feel good, but it's going to help you sit back, take a breath, do some box breathing, listen to your 48 megahertz, whatever binaural beats, you know, and let it ruminate for a while and then move forward. So, and that has been the greatest thing for me. I've grown so much, just in my position, with my job, but also personally. And it's been a game changer for me to be able to go, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Yeah. So I'm learning. It's not
Oh,
fun, but
well, we always talk about be uncomfortable being uncomfortable.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time, but I think it's very hard for people. You know, it's hard. I mean, of course, this cliche. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, right?
Yep.
It's kind of just like life. Like I do a lot of wellness coaching, and one of the things that I will say to people is, people I help, right? They'll reach out to me, and I'll say to them, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. It's my bluntness. Like, if you said to me, "Hey, Shap, I want to get in. I want to do some strength training." Let's say that, right?
Yep.
My first question would be, "How bad do you want it?" Well, I want it really bad. I'm like, "How bad?" And then I'd get you thinking about it. To say, like, you said you want this, but do you really want it, or are you just saying it? Which is it? In your case, what makes me so proud to have our conversation is you realized you had to make change, and you did it, which is not easy. And again, of course, what your boss was saying is so true. Like, there's always going to be hurdles. Like, my analogy for hurdles is this: there's a hurdle in the road, right? You got three options. You can run around it, you can jump over it, or you can run through it. Pick. Or a fourth option, you can just not do anything at all and avoid it, and the hurdle's still there.
Yeah.
So to me, I look at lots of things like that hurdle analogy is I don't know the right one. I don't know if it's go around it. I don't know if it's jump over it. I don't know if it's go through it, but I can tell you what it isn't. It's not avoid it. Because when you avoid it, the hurdle's still there.
Yeah.
And
Pick
that's,
one.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, if you don't do something about the hurdle, the next time you look at it, the hurdle's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And now there's more than one hurdle, there's multiple hurdles. So, um, why don't we do this? Tell me, I was taking some notes here, and I love that you put this down. Tell me a few traits that you think we should all strive for.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that because those are like, this is like the call to action, right?
Exactly.
Some action steps that we can
Exactly.
all take. Not putting, it's not excluding anybody. These are, I think, equitable things to try. But I would say number one, be humble. Um, just lower yourself, not thinking of yourself lower, but just take a step back and elevate others. Number two. So be humble, elevate others, because other people like thrive on being loved and accepted, and just even a look in the eye, just look them, have eye contact or smile, that could change somebody's day. And I think lastly would be just embrace grace with trust. We don't deserve grace. It is undeserved favor, but goodness, we need to embrace it because it's here, and we need to have that with each other.
My God, so powerful. Oh, I love it. I'm stealing. I'm writing. I'm taking notes because I'm stealing the stuff.
It's so funny.
Just know that I'm taking it. Like humble, elevate, others, acceptance, embrace, grace with trust. I love that. What is that last one? I have a colleague that I used to work with, and she used to always talk about um, grace and trust. I think it was grace and trust. I think so. Yeah. And we'd always go back and forth. And what does that like grace and trust mean to you? I'm a little like can you mention that for a sec?
Yeah, I mean, I think they go hand in hand. You have to have one with the other. You know, and trust is hard because we don't innately trust easily. But there's a saying, and I don't know who came up with it. I don't know if I don't even know, but I always say to myself, I say, that whole thing with embracing grace and trust, it's like grace without trust condones, means it's okay. Trust without grace condemns.
Wow.
So they feed off of each other, but you have to have both in order for that to work hand in hand and to be successful. Um, but yeah, we have a lot of things in this world we need to work on, but when we work on ourselves, that's the most important.
I love that. And the grace and trust, I'll often talk about that too. Because we do want to give people grace. And tell me if I'm right about this. Tell me if you think this makes sense. If it's not, just tell me. We do want to give people grace,
Mm-hmm.
but we also need to trust that they're not going to keep doing the same thing.
Right.
Is that what you mean, or am I off there?
Yeah. No, so if we're giving them grace, right, but we don't trust them, we're just condoning what they're doing,
Right.
condoning their behavior. Because that's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you grace, but you don't deserve it, you know, or I don't trust that you're even going to use it in the right way. We're just condoning what they're doing. But when you have that trust, and then, well, on the flip side, if you've got that trust in somebody, but you don't give them grace, you don't give them that favor that maybe they need, then you're just condemning them or you're judging them.
Oh,
So, yeah, it's kind of deep, isn't it?
it is. And I love the way you put that because I do believe now that you've explained it, when you first said it, I was like, oh, it sounds catchy. But
Yeah.
what does she mean? Like I don't really understand. Now I get it, and I totally 100% agree with you because I think that is true. They do go hand in hand. Like we need to trust somebody to give them grace.
Yeah.
Like if you don't trust somebody, it's hard to give them grace. And it's the
Right.
same way around. When you give somebody grace, you need to trust yourself and them enough to know that they're hearing what you're saying or hearing what you're doing. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, that's exactly the intention that's behind that, I believe. Yeah.
So we have a couple things before we close up, okay?
Okay.
First of all, tell me, people are listening to us, watching us. What is what do you want people? When people walk away from this, right? And they say, "Man, I was watching and listening to Craig and Jillian." What do you hope they get from it?
I hope they truly feel a sense of authenticity, especially the way we've just had this conversation. This is, for anybody that doesn't know either one of us, I mean, if we were sitting down in a coffee shop, this is exactly the same conversation we would have with each other.
Yep,
100%. It's not fake. It's not, oh, we practiced this. It's like we're sitting down, we're two friends sitting down having a real conversation with each other. So just understand that this is what you're seeing right now is who we are.
I love that. Is there
Yeah.
like a closing? Is there a closing message that you'd want to give people?
Oh, what did I say earlier? Don't be afraid to take a risk. Like you said, don't be afraid to take a risk and yeah, be uncomfortable, be afraid of being safe. Like learn to be unapologetically and unashamedly you.
I love that.
However, you need to learn that. I mean, the steps are going to be different for everybody. We could give everybody steps, but they're not going to fit, you know, they're not going to fit your shoes.
I love it. Let's close with something new, okay?
Okay,
Fair enough?
sure.
Okay, so everybody, we started off the podcast with something that I've never done, which was mentioning, asking Jillian, I think, was it something that you're proud of?
Something that makes me special.
Oh, yeah, something that makes you special. So this one here, I want you to tell me one word, and I'll finish two. So one
Okay.
word that best, somebody said, describe Jillian in one word. What would your word be?
Forgiven.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
My word is unapologetic. Everybody, first of all, Jillian, make sure you stay on when we're done.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody, first of all, gotta be walking away with this feeling inspired. Got to. I'm feeling inspired just listening to how authentic Jillian was and her, I don't know, just her amazing positive attitude, her kindness, how humble she is, and just somebody who's trying to make a positive difference in people's lives, which I think is critical. So Jillian, thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everybody, we finish every podcast with a little phrase. I'm stealing one from Jillian. Here it is. Get out and do. I love it. Everybody, thank you for cutting the crap with Shap. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Spotify. Please share it out to other people because that's how we grow. And if you want to be on the podcast, I'd love to have you. Please reach out to me. I'll take all voices because that is what the world is all about. Jillian, thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day. We will talk to you soon. See ya.
See ya.